When Cindy and I first saw Jane, we really thought we could just bring her home, clean her up a bit, and be happy using her as is. Of course, it didn't take long before our simple cleaning turned into stripping and welding. And before we knew it, we were knee-deep into breathing new life into much of her old iron. In this episode, we'll be moving from the outside of her body, where we've been spending most of our time, and diving head first into her tub and giving her a bit of love on the inside as well. For an old CJ that was well over 40 years old, Jane's tub was in surprisingly good condition. Of course, that didn't mean it couldn't benefit from a good deep cleaning and a new up-to-date finish. As you've seen on some of the earlier video footage, some of the bed, especially right here in the back where there used to be a security box of some sort, there's quite a bit of rust, at least surface rust, nothing quite of the cancer level, but we wanted to get that cleaned up and treated with some kind of rust preventative like POR 15, which is what we're going to be using. So I started cleaning out all this area in here, just kind of worked off any of the loose material so that we can treat that. But in the meantime, we also went ahead and roughened up everything else to get it ready for some bed lining, which is ultimately what we're going to be doing to the entire inside of this tub. Before moving on, we decided it'd be a good idea to remove the dash, as it helped make things easier for us to get up and into the areas around the firewall. Okay, before we can actually start applying any POR 15, we need to do one last step for preparation, and that's to put some metal prep. This right here is it in the spray bottle. I'm just going to spray everything down. I'm supposed to keep all this stuff nice and wet with this stuff for about half an hour. Now that we've gotten the tub completely prepped, sanded down, roughened up, all the rust exposed, it's time for us to lay down a coat of POR 15 to treat any of the infected areas that may be a problem for us in the future, and get this done before we go ahead and bed line. So go ahead. It takes a crazy amount of work, but in order to bedline, you want to make sure that you've got as much of the paint and anything that's glossy pretty much worn down to a dull sheen to give the bed liner a tooth to grab onto. If you don't take the time to prep, you're going to have issues in the future. So as you can see here, I went through and I scrubbed down the whole bed. At this point in time, what we're going to do is we're going to take some xylene, really toxic stuff, and go ahead and just scrub down the rest of the tub just in case there's anything left that I didn't get.
I had originally thought about Raptor lining the transmission covers where they sat, but after giving it some thought, decided it might be better to remove and finish them outside of the Jeep.
Years ago, the only way you could bed line your Jeep was to take it into a professional outfit like Line-X or Rhino Liner, or maybe you would do it with a do-it-yourself kit like Herculiner and you could roll it on. Today, we're going to be using a product called Raptor Liner, and it allows us to basically spray it in ourselves using just a simple home compressor and an undercoating gun like this. That's what we're going to be doing. Before we get to bed lining, I'm going to go ahead and start masking off everything that we don't want to be permanently bed lined. So this blue painter's tape is how we're going to start. Tape, leave enough of a tag so we can pull it out.
With hardener added to the Raptor liner, it was time to shake things up and get this show on the road.
I just got done spraying this and left it out for about 15 minutes. According to the product, it's supposed to take about an hour at 68 degrees for this stuff to be dry enough or flash off enough for me to add a second coat. But today is about 80-85 degrees where we're at right now, so it should be drying a little bit faster. And one of the things you can do to check it is you can touch a spot, obviously not in the bed, but something else I got sprayed, and if it kind of comes back up on your finger, it's a little bit too wet. Ideally, you should be able to touch it, and it should feel relatively dry to the touch, and maybe even leave a fingerprint. So right here on this parking brake pedal, you can see it's kind of heavy. I'm going to go ahead and touch it, and you can see it's relatively dry. It's kind of leaving a fingerprint. You kind of want it a little bit tacky so that you can spray on the second coat and adhere real nice. So I'm going to suit up and do that again. So it's been about 15 minutes since we laid down the last coat. Now it's time to start pulling off some of this blue tape before it becomes a permanent fixture of this Jeep. It took a ton of work to get Jane's tub cleaned up, prepped, and finished with a durable coat of Raptor Liner, but I think you'll agree that it came out great and was well worth the effort. Please join us again as we continue our effort to breathe new life into some old iron and to make some sense of the calamity that is all Jane.